Hey there, coaches. I'm Rich Prado, owner of Play in School and host of Travel Ball Talk, where I talk to travel ball coaches from the best organizations about the current and future state of travel baseball. We're headed down to South Georgia today to talk to Andy Burress, owner of 5 Star Baseball. This was a great conversation that covers lots of ground, including how he took a baseball team that was sponsored by and named after a local chain link fence company to the national powerhouse that we know today. I hope you enjoy this episode of Travel Ball Talk.
Before we get into today's call, I want to talk to you coaches for just a second. What if I told you that I know a way to create a benefits package for your entire organization? A program that includes things like guaranteed scholarships, on-demand tutoring, sports nutrition, savings for your families on things like travel, lodging, and food, fundraising opportunities, and so much more. Would that be something you'd want to learn about? Do you want to begin to increase the value that you're providing your players and families? Listen, if that sounds a little bit interesting, just reach out to me. DM me on Twitter at playinschool or send me an email, rich@playinschool.com, and put in the subject benefits package, player benefits package. That's what this is. Now, on to the show. All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. Today we head down to South Georgia to visit with our friend Andy Burress of 5 Star. Andy, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Appreciate you having me on.
You got it, man. It took a little doing to get going, but we had some mutual friends who kind of made this happen for us. Donald, talking about you if you're listening. So I appreciate it. For those of you guys who are listening here, if you're not terribly familiar with 5 Star, I would imagine over the next couple of years you will be. This is a I would say a big and growing organization. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But before we get talking about all things 5 Star, I wanted to let Andy sort of introduce himself, give your quick bio. You don't have to take us all the way back to T-ball, but give us your quick background and then
Sure.
and then give us the introduction on 5 Star, and we'll go from there.
Great. Yeah, it from a small town, obviously. We still live in a small town in Perry, South Georgia. Grew up playing football and baseball. Ended up getting drafted out of high school in 1995 and played 7 years of professional baseball, and then came back and opened up an indoor facility in Eastman, Georgia, back in would have been 2002, and kind of started there, and ended up getting into some other things, and then on the business side of things, but then came back in 2009 after the Little League World Series in 2007 and won Robbins, and opened up a facility here, and we really have grown. I think we talked about 22 different facilities, and we partner with our own, and down in Puerto Rico and across the United States, and it's been had a good friend of mine named Scott Holder, who was a older friend. He always said, you should stick to what you know, and I tried a little bit of everything else, and after I opened up my first indoor facility and got back to what I knew, and has really been a great ride over the last 10 or 15 years of doing this.
Well, we're going to open up a little bit of that stuff, but the first thing you kind of glossed over. What's the Little League World Series story?
When Robbins was here in, I live in Peary, which is about 10 minutes. Our indoor facility, our home office is in Warren Robins, Georgia, and back in 2007. They won Little League World Series. Dalton Carricker had several guys. I think everybody remember Dalton hitting a home run against Japan, and he was on the Wheaties box. And
Gotcha. So your local little league won the World Series as you were kind of getting this thing off the ground.
Yep, they did. They won it here in '07, and then in '02. I'm sorry, not in '09 was when we opened up here.
Got it.
That was I was about an hour south, and a lot of these guys were traveling down to work out with me. And to be honest with you, my wife was a school teacher, and she wanted to get up this way, and so it was a couple of the businesses that I had was up here in Warner Robins. I owned some Dairy Queens that was up here, so it made it work out so that when we moved this way, opened up a facility, and like I said, those kids that had won the Little League World Series, a lot of those played with us. That was our first ever 14U team we had out of Warner Robins.
That's a pretty good crew of kids to have as your first wave of players going through that older age group, I would imagine.
Yeah, man, it was, and there was a great group of parents, and I still see a lot of them around. I mean, they're it was a really good group to start with, and we kind of added some kids from down further south, and really ended up having a good group. And a lot of those guys are now coming back and either working for us or helping us out in some way, shape, or fashion. So
I want to go back a little bit to your high school days. You played for an organization, if I have my facts right, if I did my research, you played for an organization called Chain Baseball. And for those of us who've been following along, at some point in time, there was Chain 5-star, and now it's 5-star. Can you take us back to your days with Chain and who was running that, and then kind of connect the dots for how Chain has apparently evolved in strictly into 5-star?
Sure. Back in it would have been 1992, 93. I played for an organization out of Savannah, a guy by the name of Buddy Myers. Buddy was one of those guys who was a very successful businessman. Started, and we got a lot of lumber mills down here. Buddy had a chain and sprocket company business. We would go in and just big heavy duty chains, big heavy duty sprockets that would run these paper mills. He would manufacture those, and so he started back in 1985. He started the first ever chain team, more or less for him to do some advertisement, but he always enjoyed the baseball side, so he would support those teams. He'd have one team every year. And in 1993, I played for him. Actually took me to an event. Red Scout saw me up in Johnson City, Tennessee, and then came back and drafted me. That same scout did in 1995. But, as kind of moving forward is that in 19, I went out and played for 7 years, came back in '02, and so kind of a side story that Lloyd Thompson up at home plate, he and I were friends, and the first ever team that he had.
We actually just had Walker on the podcast a few weeks ago from home plate. So.
Yep. And Lloyd, of course, Walker took over for Lloyd and bought Lloyd.
Yep.
But Lloyd was the first ever in 2005 or 2006, the first ever teams that actually Lloyd had, I coached. And there was another guy by the name of Shannon Snyder who was down running the facility in Savannah at the time, the chain facility. And so we kind of went back to our roots, and he said, really, Lloyd's a great dude and Walker's a great guy. But Walker, of course, it wasn't there at that time. But so we went back in 06 and 07 with chain baseball. We had chain baseball teams all the way up and through. And then when we started really kind of going into a national, team. The first, people laugh and they talk about these national teams and scout teams. And, in 2015, the first ever national team that anybody had national on their name was we had Chain National. And, 2015, we won back-to-back BCS championships. Our 15U team was ranked number 2 in the country, and our 16U team was ranked 3rd in the country. And that was really kind of the starting point to where that we really started to come into a national brand. And that was in 2015. 2016, it'll take you back 2014. Mr. Buddy Myers, who founded Chain Baseball, passed away. And there were 3 original charters. Shannon Snyder, who was originally in Savannah, he had one in LaGrange. I had the one in Warner Robins, and then there was one in Savannah. Well, Savannah was, most of the guys that had come up, the better kids would come up to Savannah and playing with us anyway. So it really wasn't a need for us to have a, facility there. So, we kind of let that one, there was another person who ended up buying that one down there. And so for a couple of years, just simple, they were teams out of Savannah that was Chain Baseball, teams out of Warner Robins that was Chain National. And so we did that for a couple of years. And, as Buddy never, when he put Chain Baseball in place, it was never structured to grow the way that we've grown. And, we decided that we were going to continue to grow. We felt like we had honored Mr. Buddy's legacy. We had won those back-to-back national championships in 2015. And we felt like, for us to continue to move in the direction and kind of put the Chain Baseball name to rest. And that's when we in 2017, beginning of 2017, we rolled over into 5-star. And, there's still a few, people that have access to the Chain name, and I hadn't seen many teams around. But as far as, Buddy and what we felt like we wanted to do for him, and, we felt like we had honored that, and we needed to kind of roll into something new so we could continue to grow. And 2017, we did that again, won back-to-back BCS national championships at 16 and 17 this year. And of course, you're now sitting here in, like we talked about earlier, in 2020, we're the largest organization in the country as far as, baseball goes, amateur baseball. And there's not a day they don't get up and don't enjoy going to work. I can tell you that.
You mentioned, and if you go to the website, by the way, it's 5starnational.com. If you go to the website and click on locations, I think you mentioned, I'm not going to count them, I'll take your word for it. It looks like 22 different locations. And the way, if I'm listening correctly, it sounds like you've got guys from around the country who mainly have facilities. And then within those facilities, they're running 5-star teams. Is that pretty accurate?
That's correct. I started in the indoor facility, years ago doing lessons. I felt like that, if we were going to build a national program, that the kids that would come and play on our national team need some kind of an accountability when they went back. Every Don Gullett, who's a junior, Don Gullett Senior, who coached me when I was with the Reds. Don Gullett Jr. runs our Cincinnati facility. if we've got a guy that comes and plays on our national team, and he goes back home and, he needs to, if there's something that he needs to work on, we need him to have somebody there that he can be accountable to and for. And, that's the, so every place that we have been or has an indoor facility. And, that's just, that's, and that's not the way a lot of the national brand guys do it. But that was the way that we felt like we needed to do it if we were going to continue to develop kids, along with showcase them on a national scale.
One of the things, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, one of the things we talked about before we hit record is how we're all on one-day contracts, no matter what we do in life, right? That's the way I feel. And for better or worse, the people I do business with, it's honestly, it's usually the relationship is sealed usually with a text emoji. That
That's right.
People are like, what kind of contract you got? I'm like, a text fist bump. That's a fist bump or maybe a thumbs up. And it sounds like you have a pretty similar relationship with your guys as far as the looseness of it. And can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Well, I'll even go a step further. The years ago, the guys at PG, one of the bombs actually themed the frame, mafia, and we've had some, it's a tough word for a lot of people, but ultimately what it means to us is that once you come in our family, nobody leaves. We've never had one of our partner facilities leave. We've never had them, go do something else, and so, I feel like that, our guys that are involved with us, it's a trust factor. I do my homework before I go, sit down with any of these guys that we talk to, and, we're all of our guys are on like you just said, a handshake agreement. Hey, because if I don't do what I say I'm gonna do, I don't want you to have any reasons not to leave. Now, of course that hadn't happened, but that's the way I feel about it. And so, we've got a, I've talked to our guys in Carolina, our guys in, Puerto Rico, and I go see them once a month. If they'll fly in and see me, or we'll go to games together, and it's a close-knit group of guys. We actually had at the ABCA, we rented out one of the little restaurants downtown. And had all of our guys in there, and it was a really, really good thing. A lot of guys with same similarities, same ideas, same backgrounds, and from the guys that that do our bookkeeping to the guys the guys that do our bookkeeping are baseball people, and the guys that do our accounting are baseball people, guys that do our emails and social media and everything are baseball people, and it's a tight knit group of guys, and we do our best to look after them, and we've had like you said, so far we've had a great run with all of these guys.
Speaking of baseball guys, one of the things that I in trying to find info on you and look up your Twitter account, I come to realize you don't have one, and I found that to be kind of funny in an era where personal brand is sort of a buzzword, and for many of these organizations are run by guys who put themselves forward, and I got no problem with that. Listen, Rich Prado is the face of playing school, right? Like, so I get that. I'm all about that. But then the flip side is where you have looks like intentionally chosen to kind of melt into the background and put the logo first and put the organization first. I'll tell a little story, and I kind of want to hear your perspective. But there's another organization I know very well. I know the head guy very well, and we've done work with them in the past. And he's about as good a baseball pedigree as it comes, and almost nobody knows he runs the organization he runs. And he keeps it that way to the point where he once tweeted out some complimentary words about playing school, and before I could thank him for those kind words, he texted me and said, "Do not mention my name." That's how much in the background he wanted to be, and I find that to be, it's kind of a little bit of a breath of fresh air. I mean, even though I'm the face of my business, I can appreciate him and you wanting to not be the face of your business. Can you kind of speak to the decision to sort of stay in the background?
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest reason is, it's when, if our kids go out and win a championship, or if one of our players has an accolade, then, it shouldn't be about me. My opinion, although it does matter to people we're talking to me, I don't feel like that it needs to be the center of attention. I think that, heck, PG come out with who won the most titles, or, both championships in 2019, and we were number one. We won more championships than anybody in the country. And so, I didn't win any of those games. So, I don't think it should have been, about me. And, like I said, I don't have Facebook. I don't have Twitter. Of course we have social media is a huge part of things, and we do have 5-star Twitter and 5-star Instagram and Facebook, and and some of the guys that all of our guys, I think now, that work for us, they all have their own personal pages. But for me, I never felt like my opinion should over view, or should overshadow what actually is going on. Whether it be a kid making it to a national event, a kid having a getting a scholarship, signing, again, winning whatever, however many of those, tournaments that we won last year. Again, I just never felt like that. And I think, that's some of the problem. I told people, I said, I got off the plane in 2002. I tied my cleats together. I threw them up in the top of the pine tree because I didn't need them anymore. My days are over. So, I just hope to use what, the knowledge and the relationships that we've granted over these last several years to help open doors for kids that just like myself, that was, from a rural area that maybe didn't have an opportunity like some of these other kids have.
You mentioned social media is part of this thing, and 5-Star has its social media. And if anybody wants to look you up on Twitter, I just pulled it up. It's the number 5-Star National is the looks like the main Twitter account. But you say it's not your style, not your thing. It's more the team thing. But you mentioned to me how it sort of has a little bit of a kind of a downside to it with in regards to like what I refer to as parent agents and some of the kids in the world of kind of overly promotional. if you will.
Sure.
I mean, you know, you want to talk about that a little bit, and maybe, you know, is something you talk about with the players internally?
Right. I mean, I think it's, you know, I think there's a fine line, you know, you as a 16-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid, you going on and you know, putting your swings on social media, you know, that's different to me. I think that's something that, you know, because that's what adolescents do. That's what, you know, young guys do. They go on and put their stuff on there. But, you know, then you have the other part of that where you have, you know, the parents that are like, and I think you and I maybe talked about it, you can tell that it's the kid's account, but the parent runs the account. Mm-hmm. And so the parent goes on and, you know, does, and my whole thing is we talk about this a lot with, you know, college guys, and, you know, if, you know, with the way PBR and PG and those guys are doing things now, if you're good enough, you know, they're gonna post about you, and that post means so much more that, you know, that than it would coming from a parent, you know. And so, you know, and again, that's, you know, some of the organizations, I think some of them do a really good job of, you know, promoting their kids, you know, with videos and things like that. You know, I think some of them could probably do. I mean, it's, you know, some of them could probably do a little better job. We were talking about the guys. You know, I can't remember how long it was. Several years ago now. You know, somebody told me, you know, we had to get Twitter. I go, man, I don't want Twitter. That's you know, it's a waste of my time. You know, I got to sit on Twitter and read about everybody's. But it's become such a huge part.
And that it really has become where coaches congregate online. It really is incredible. I would have never predicted it 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah. It's
you know, it's funny. You see some people do it really well. See some players do it really well. See some organizations do it really well, and then I see some people do it really, really poorly. I actually tweeted out one yesterday. There's an organization. They're out there trying to promote their guys, and that's great. But I checked. They're following 0 people on Twitter. I go, you're missing the point. The whole point is to network and to interact and to grow relationships. Because, I mean, yeah, you know some coaches personally, and everybody knows coaches personally, but for every coach you know personally, there's 100 you don't know, like literally 100, maybe more. It's like, man,
right.
give yourself a shot and introduce your. It's like going to the networking event and hanging out in your hotel room the whole weekend. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a weird thing, man. Twitter definitely it's a kind of a double-edged sword. It can be the best thing. It can also be toxic at times.
Sure.
One of the things we got chatting about the other day, and you know, as I've gotten to kind of get to know you a little bit, is your interest in non-baseball things. And I really appreciate that, because I have non-baseball hobbies and interests that are right up there with baseball, if not even beyond my interest in baseball, and that's saying a lot. And you know, I can just imagine you hanging up from this call and heading straight to the woods. You know, so you know, if you want to talk about some of your outside interest, here's a moment too. If you want to kind of get vulnerable, you tell as much or as little as you want, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I think you know, some people, all my guys that work in the office, I don't know. I think we have 17 full-time guys that in the southern part here that work full-time, and almost every one of those guys, we take off on Fridays and they go play golf.
Uh-huh.
And I just, not that I don't like playing golf. I just there's so many other aspects of, I have a son now that's in high school and playing, but man, like I said, we, growing up, I was able to accumulate, some things, rental properties, and been involved in several different businesses. And so it's for me, the hunting and we go, I guess Drew, my son, he loves, we go shoot duck, and, we go hog hunting and deer hunting. And, I'm sitting here, matter of fact, I'm out here in my, I hadn't really talked about this, but behind my house, I bought a foreclosed house when we moved up here to Perry, and it was called a pool house, and it was the guy's actual office. And so when the kids come in and stay, we have an upstairs where, they bunk beds and things, and then downstairs we got ping pong tables and pool tables, but it's also golden tees and everything else. Drew, my son, he likes to bet everybody up on the ping pong table, so that's his favorite thing. But we got deer mounts and duck mounts and all downstairs. But we've like I said, I think going back to the business side of things on the business people that have been successful outside of have a tough time coming into the baseball business world and being as successful because it's so different.
Mm-hmm.
I was, again, we've been fortunate. I was coming up to have several different businesses that actually helped me, run the baseball side of things and run the baseball business. But it is so vastly different. It's just unique in the fact, but so when I had the Dairy Queens, they said, hey, if you'll run the Dairy Queens like this, you'll make money. Well, there is no formula on the baseball side of things that says, hey, if you'll run things like this, you'll be successful. And so I think that's one of the toughest things that people have. There's a fine line between, again, you providing a service. There's got to be a charge, but being able to create that, to have that charge that's affordable for kids in South Georgia, and that's a tough thing for us. We're one of the cheapest. We're by far the cheapest of any organization around as far as cost goes, but it's we feel like that we want everybody to be able to participate. We're not one of those teams that we don't we're not one of those groups that our the number one team in the nation, every kid on that team paid. We 16U team we got now, number one team in the country. I'm not going to go, call, somebody out in California and pay them to come play for us. Feel like there's value in what we do, and we'd love for you to come play for us, but we're not going to pay to take you away from somebody else's team to go win an event. We'll take maybe a lesser guy if we have to, that wants it just a little bit more, and we'll be okay. But I think that's kind of another avenue that you see a lot of the bigger brands going to now, because they do have more funds to do certain things with. Is they're taking kids And again, that there's a lot of value in that. A kid coming and playing around other really good players. But as far as us going out and paying for those guys to come play with us, we just don't feel like there's a whole lot of good in it for them or us.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Is I usually just put that in the category of it's not good or bad. It's just different. And some folks want to build a roster like that, then works for them. That's good for them. No, not good or bad, just different, I suppose.
That's right. That's right.
I suppose. Where do we go from here? I want to talk. I do want to ask you about. This is the part in the show where I try to get two of my longtime sponsors to settle up on the debt they owe me. League Apps and Marucci. They seem to get mentioned in every single one of the podcasts. When I was on your site and I saw the League Apps logo down at the bottom, and you said, yeah, you're not only a League Apps user, but you're a big fan and you like them. You want to give any props to those League Apps guys?
Yeah, and they've done for us. I mean, they've been very good for as far as having multiple facilities and multiple different locations. They've made it for me have made it extremely easy to be able to manage and help those guys run. I know. We're talking a little bit about USA Baseball. I know USA Baseball uses League Apps also to help them with some of their stuff, and so that they've been very good. I mean, they've been helping us be able to grow. You got to have systems in place to help you be able to do that, and they have.
It's easy when you have 20 players. It's easy, even if mom and dad says checks in the mail. Okay, you'll track them down, but the problem is when you begin to scale, checks in the mail no longer works, and now all of a sudden, if you have 20 teams or 50 teams or 100 teams, like you said, there has to be systems and processes in place, and I just encourage. It doesn't have to be League Apps, but I encourage. People listen to this. If you're running an organization and you're trying to grow beyond 20 guys or 40 guys, you want to get to more teams. The systems and processes are what will lead you to be successful, because then you can focus on baseball instead of tracking down payments or just wasting time handling administrative stuff. And that's honestly, it's like. Not to blow up League Apps too much, but for me, I don't know what they charge to handle the back end. I think it's worth it because collecting a guaranteed payment every single month from every single mom and dad, to me, is better than the most hated phrase on the earth, which is checks in the mail. That phrase just makes me cringe, and so if folks are looking to scale, I think they need to look into them or something equivalent to that type of technology that's going to handle the back end administrative registration and payment that's gonna ding the account every single month. And they gave me free barbecue at ABCA, so so I'm going to say nice stuff about them, I suppose. The other company I brought up is Marucci, and when I mentioned them to you earlier, it's kind of like this. I keep hearing a lot from you about the same thing. You're like, oh yeah, I've been with them, since the beginning. You seem to have been around the block a long time now, and you want to talk about kind of how you got to know those guys a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we were originally the Hannah and Trey McClure actually flew here. They were the ones that first told me I had to have Twitter, years ago. Now I love those guys, Kyle, all those guys, great guys. We still do some things with them, but we're Rollins is, we're with Rollins now, and they've been extremely good to us also. But like I said, years ago we were the first ever, Marucci. They were kind of getting out of their, they had teams there that they would run, and when they got out of teams, they got into the individual.
That's right. They had They had the Marucci Elite team with I believe Chad was running that team, wasn't he, back in the day?
Chad Riley. Yep. He had some really good teams back then, and they kind of got away from that, which I think was smart on their end. And like I said, we years ago, like I said, we were the first one. They flew in, met with us, and like I said, did a great job. Just, I'll be honest with you, they back then when, they were growing and we were growing, and it was just, we've kind of ended up doing our own. We have our own sublimation company now, and it's been just because of the volume.
I was going to say, when you have you have 22 locations and the number of teams, that's going to scale so fast. That if you have the ability to handle apparel in-house, that is a huge cost savings, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and we also do, again with I guess it's just being able to have Baker Sporting Goods down in Jacksonville is, the company that does all of our gear, and man, they've been really good. Josh, he was instrumental. He was part of the original 5-star group that came over, Josh Baker, and so he and I've not only become good business partners, but good friends too. So that's another addition to what the family, I guess you'd say. So he's got two boys who are coming up, going to be good ball players now, going to be and are going to be good, really good players.
Gotcha.
So that's nice to have those guys.
Hey, let me ask you the question I try and ask all the coaches who jump on here, and you'll be able to go a million different directions or any direction you want to go with this, and then we'll work on starting to try and wrap up. I always want to try and pick your brain on the current state of travel baseball, and and that's sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I always preface this by saying, when I say bad, listen, we're all in travel baseball, so obviously I like it enough to be a part of it. So I'm really looking for, are there things that, if you could wave a wand and maybe improve upon? So I'm not, not looking for a bashing session. So, good, bad, and the ugly. Feel free to, take that and run with it any direction you want.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, you have so many. I feel like you have in this industry so many guys that I don't want to say copycat, but they try to mimic somebody successful, and that's not a bad thing. I just think sometimes it becomes that if any new thing comes out, then everybody runs that direction.
Well, seen that,
and and so again, it's somebody builds a new building. I mean, everybody wants to go see the new paint. If somebody has a new restaurant, everybody wants to run. But I think sometimes that and again, it began, but there is no really blueprint of how to grow. And you see some guys that are successful and been able to grow, and you see others that have tried to grow and have kind of backed away from it. And I have some really good friends in this industry that we talk to, some really guys that are, have done well. And so, but for me, and, I I think that the biggest thing is that if people just stay in their niche, whatever that may be, like I said, our thing has been, and it was because I grew up and had an indoor facility and always had indoor facilities, is that I didn't want to be the organization that didn't have a place to train, and so and again, there's been a lot of successful organizations that don't have the indoor facility piece, and that. But I also think that for us, that's been a big necessity for us in the growth factors, that having indoor facilities, and then the guys that had indoor facilities and have been able to help them be a little bit more economical in their facilities, and then also help find the I won't tell you any names, but I think maybe you talked about this. I went out and met. There's a big franchise business that has indoor facilities, and that's what they do. And they go out and build these $1 million facilities. And the guys our age, and I went out and talked to him a couple months back, and he goes, "I don't want any teams in my business." He's got several large facilities around the country. Mm-hmm. And he says, "I don't want any teams in my facility. I don't want anything team do anything with anything about my facility." And so here's to me, I think it's a necessity for you to, if you have facilities, you got to be able to have teams. And so anyway, he and I were just kind of going over that fact. And so you have so many different and years ago when I started, back in 2002, one of the guys I respected the whole life, man, do not do teams. Do not do it took me, a long time to be able to, go, man, I probably need to do teams. And that's now it's become, we got more teams than anything, and I enjoy the team part of it.
One of the things I've picked up just from talking to so many coaches around the country doing this podcast is that there really isn't, like you said, there's no formula for this, and there appears to be many different ways to have a successful product in the facility/teams business. And some of these guys are doing a really good job with no teams now. In my area, most of the facilities have what I would say an in-house team, and then there are teams that don't have facilities. Well, but sometimes they want to work out indoors, so they go and rent that facility. And kids from any organization will go and work out or train or do lessons or whatever. In other parts of the country, I'm finding out that the organization has essentially like a private facility just for them. And so I'm kind of curious, your facilities, are these they're not 5-star branded facilities, are they? They're existing facilities that host the 5-star team.
That's even my facility here in Warren Robins, where we have our home office. No, we do have some that are 5-star branded, but to me and everybody, they want to, people, they come to me, "Hey, I want to make my facility a 5-star facility." And I go, "Well, let me explain. Where do the most of the kids come that are, and most of them are kids that need some additional help, who a lot of times they're younger kids. That's kind of what feeds the indoor facility part. Well, if we found this to happen, is that some parent looks up on Google or whatever, oh, there's a 5-star. Well, my son's he's not quite good enough to go there, and so or they just play for the Orioles and don't think, oh, we're an Oriole, we're not going to go train at this private 5-star facility. Right. That's right. And that's the other case. We try to keep, and we try to keep the facility part of it as a separate entity than the actual, our actual team. So if you've got a facility, that where 5-star players train, that's different than a 5-star facility.
Yep.
And I think that's, again, through trial and error of it is that, you don't want to limit who you can bring in, who your trainers can train. And so, if you, a lot of people just assume that if it's a 5-star facility, then, either I got to be a 5-star player or I got to be of a certain caliber to go to train that facility. And so you would lose, maybe lose clientele. And so we've tried to make a conscious effort not to have, and then we do have some facilities that are 5-star facilities, but that's not necessarily what we 100% suggest.
Got it. What else is cooking in the current state of travel baseball? What sort of caught your eye recently, as far as whether really, really awesome or something that you think, hey man, this is either complete silliness or hey, this is a cool idea and this is how it can be improved?
Well, I think, of course, I think that there are some really good, people would come to me, and I mean, we've had, I don't know, $100 million worth of signing bonuses over the last, however many years. And so, won't you be an agent? I go, well, listen, there's people for that.
Yeah.
There's people.
No thanks, man. No, I've had people tell me the same thing. No thanks.
Yeah. And then so then you have people come to me and they, hey, why don't you go get in the tournament business? Oh man, you could. And I go, well, there's
no thanks. People told me the same thing. I'm saying,
there's some pretty good groups out there that do that already.
Yes, there are.
I think that I get being diversified. We've talked about that on the other side of things, but I think what you have, again, going back to, is you have you have some of these organizations that want to be agents and want to be want to be tournament directors and want to have fields, and that's I've been fortunate to be able to. I have been a part of a lot of different things, and I know what works and what doesn't work for us. Versus trying to so I'll have somebody come sit with me and go, hey man, if you'll do it this way, you'll we got this. I go, well, I can just tell you it ain't gonna work like that because I've already done it.
Mm-hmm. So, that's a key point, a key phrase. What works for y'all? What
works for y'all.
What works for y'all? Because obviously, listen, the tournament business is exploding, so it's working. It's working for a lot of people. Yeah, but not something you're necessarily looking to get into. And the agency thing, man, honestly, that works for Scott Burress. There ain't a whole lot of other agencies it works for. Just if you want to start, if anybody listening is thinking about getting into it, you can do some research and do some math. I mean, I wouldn't. That's a tough gig, man. Unless your name is, unless you're working for Burress, that's a tough gig.
There's that, to me, I said, there's a couple good ones and a lot of bad ones. So that's another tough industry. People, and I always say, I have these, parents, they send me these, and I go, an agent will reach out to him, or somebody that wants to be an agent will reach out to him. I go, hey, look, your son has a very real possibility to make $1 million, and I always say, you can support this guy's family for a year. So you got to understand when they're coming at you a certain way, that if he can get you to, he can be your advisor, and there's an opportunity that you get to pay this guy's, or this guy would make enough money to support his family for a year.
Yeah.
And and so it's a, because my my son, he's ranked high and whatever and all that, and he had an opportunity to go play with USA baseball and win a gold medal, and you would just be surprised at some of the things that people will send him.
Oh yeah, I'm sure people coming out of the woodwork. The reality is most. I mean, I could be off. This is a generalization, but I would suspect that most amateur players aren't going to have enough upside through having an agent versus not. That's gonna where it's gonna offset. Now, once you get into the league a little bit, and the money begins to grow exponentially, and the opportunity for money grows exponentially, then all of a sudden that fee that you would pay to have representation becomes a very valuable. That becomes a very important thing. But you're coming out of high school or college. There's very few of those where the money makes sense to get repped. But again, hey, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Somebody will probably tweet me and tell me how wrong I am now. But what else is cooking? Anything else on your mind?
I just we're our group, we're getting ready for another big summer. I mean, we're this time of year, believe it or not, it's kind of the time that we actually get to take our breath a little bit and go out and see some high school games, go out and see that's one of the things we talked about, is I think before we got on the recording, is that with the new academies and things that are coming up, and I'm from a small town, so we have a lot of kids that are big time players in small schools, and those, I understand the importance of that, and just being able to get out and see some of those high school games, and it's as for us right now is kind of our time before the storm. Once we hit in May, we'll be wide open all the way.
What's the top couple of events you're looking forward to this coming summer?
We, of course, we are, of course, always, the World with Bats is always a big event.
Obviously, yeah.
The USA added a new event up at Curie this year that they're going to do some, kind of a invite-only thing. I think it's going to be a good event. So every year that's one of the things that we do try to do. We try to reach out, and
I think my buddy Charles Lane was helping put that together. Is that who was helping you with that?
Yep, I like Charles. Charles is a good guy.
Charles, good dude. He was previously with Triple Crown Pathway Baseball, based out of Fort Collins, Colorado, and he hooked on with USA a couple years back, and he's doing a good job. And he's put together a pretty, from the sounds of it, this invite only event is going to have a few of the older age groups and pretty small and selective group of teams. So that's going to be an interesting thing to look forward to.
Yep, I think he's done a great job there too. He actually went down. He was in when the USA event was held in Playa del Carmen this year in Mexico. He was actually down there. We were down there for 2 weeks, so I got to spend a lot of time with him.
Wait, hold on. Where was that, and why didn't I get an invite to that, Charles?
Yeah. We had a great time. The boys had to stay in. I think the international committee does it on purpose. They don't, they don't put them up on the beach like we got to stay on the beach.
Hey, that's
they got to stay in. Yeah,
that's good. That's good. Yeah, put them in the dorm room somewhere else, and coaches all hanging beachfront. I like it.
That's right.
Well, man, I think that's a good place to stop call one. We'll have to do another call here in the future, but I'm going to put all this stuff will be over, and I always mess up. I should say this at the beginning, but all this will be over at playinschool.com/Burress, and I'll put links to 5 Star's website and to the 5 Star Twitter, and Andy is Twitterless, so there will be no links to his Twitter. But if anybody, I will say this: if anybody's kind of curious about, maybe you run a facility, you got your own thing going on in some little nook or cranny of the country, and you kind of felt like you were jiving with what you heard from Andy. Feel free to reach out. If you can't track him down, just DM me and I'll get you in touch with Andy. 5 Star is definitely growing, man. It's 22 locations across the country and a whole heck of a lot of teams based out of those different facilities. So, man, Andy, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Rich.
We'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you, man.
Have a good one.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
I'm having so much fun bringing these shows to you each week. If you'd like to recommend a coach for the show, please don't hesitate to shoot me a note at rich@playinschool.com or DM me on Twitter @playinschool. Again, my name is Rich Prado. I'm the founder of Play in School. My goal is to continue to create products and services that add value to you, the travel ball coaches, your players, and their parents. Visit playinschool.com to see some of the ways we're doing that. Or better yet, let's set up a call. Until next time, thank you for listening to Travel Ball Talk.